We are so glad that you made it. And anyhow, with that being said, we're going to jump right in. And we've been the last several weeks, 7 weeks to be exact, in this series called Start. And we're taking a look at what it means to have a fresh starting point with our faith. You know, a lot of times we've been brought up, we've grown up with a certain set of beliefs that have been handed to us by our friends and our family members. And some of that's good. I'm not saying that it's not. I mean, you know, I'm training our kids to believe, you know, in God and believe certain things. We're not just giving them a book of, you know, world religion and say, here, kids, figure it out. No, we want to give them a good foundation. But as we grow, sometimes we begin to question those things that we believed as a child. And we wonder if it's still relevant to us. We wonder because, you know, as a kid, many people believed in Santa Claus, and we found out that he wasn't real at some point in time. And sometimes our understanding of God hasn't really continued to progress. So we're decided to take a look at what does it look like if we were going to start all over again? If we look at the Bible as if we didn't know what it said, as if we're not filling any blanks in, we're not jumping to any conclusions. Let's just look at this with a fresh set of eyes. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that we've been kind of talking around for the last several weeks. We've been talking around it, but we've never specifically talked about it. We've kind of avoided it, and now it's time to dig in, and that word is faith. The word is faith. And this is probably one of the most confused and misused and abused words in all of religion and in all of Christianity. Man, this word is all over the place. Faith this and faith that. And in fact, I mean, it's become so synonymous with religion that we talk about if you have faith or not. And that somehow assumes, well, do I believe in God or some higher power, or do I believe in a set of religious guidelines or something to that effect? So throughout today, I'm going to use the words faith and belief kind of interchangeably. Faith and belief, because they're very similar. But here's the thing that we want to kind of set the ground rule saying that there's nothing religious about these words. You know, in fact, for the first probably half of the sermon today, we're going to look at it from purely just a normal life perspective, not even as far as how we us and God. These are just normal words. But for some reason, they start to seem mystical. Say, oh, that person has so much faith, right? And we're like, oh, well, that must mean they're really holy, they're mystical, or somebody like, you know, oh, I prayed for God to heal me, but he didn't heal me, so what? So maybe I just didn't have enough faith. And we start to take all this thing, and what is faith? And it becomes very abstract. What exactly is faith? And do I have any? And how much do I have? And how do I use this in my life, and how does this benefit me? And how, you know, make these words seem so religious and so mystical. But here's the thing, faith is just faith. Belief is just belief. And we're going to talk about how that works in our whole, you know, religious views, perhaps. We're going to start kind of at the foundation. Now, in Scripture, the word faith comes from the Greek word pistis, which is in your notes. Pistis, which is conviction of the truth of anything. Conviction of the truth of anything or belief. If I'm convinced something is true, it doesn't matter what it is, then that is faith. If I'm convinced that it's a sunshiny day outside, that the sun is shining, well, that is faith. It could be a cloudy day, and I could still be convinced that the sun is shining even above the clouds. I'm convinced that something is true, and that's faith. That's belief. In English, the Webster's Dictionary translates faith as complete trust or confidence in something or someone. Complete trust or confidence in something. Now, if we look in Scripture in Hebrews 11:1, we see what it says here. It says, Faith means being what? Sure. Is there anything that you're sure of in life? I mean, this morning, I was sure that when I put my key into the ignition, my car would crank. Some of you are like, I wasn't sure if it would crank or not. But most of us were probably sure that it would crank. Or I'm sure at the end of the week, I've worked my week, I'm sure I'm going to get a paycheck. And again, some of you are like, no, I wasn't sure if I was or not. But it's saying faith means being sure of the things that we hope for. So if I hope for something, I'm being sure of that. Faith is being sure of the things we hope for and knowing something is real even if we do not see it. Knowing something's real even if we don't see it. Do we believe that, there's other planets in our solar system? Do we believe that stars are actually, these big balls of flaming gases? Really believe all of these things? Well, we can't really see it. We hear about people that see it, but we just kind of see vaguely some of these things. Well, here it says, faith is believing something's real, even if we can't entirely see it. We talk about atoms and molecules. These are things that we can't see, but we have faith that they actually exist. So here's some observations we're going to make about faith. The first one is this, if you're taking notes. Belief is the most powerful force known to man. Belief is the most powerful force known to man. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know. That's just religious talk. That's just church talk. No, listen. When we talk about what separates man from the animals, what does it often come down to? It comes down to these, right? We have an opposable thumb. Now, I don't know about you, but I would much rather have the ability to believe. Because if I have the ability to believe, it doesn't matter if we have an opposable thumb or not. We'll figure out a way around it. I mean, we don't see animals out there making plans for the future. We don't see animals saying, I just wonder what life could be like if I lived in the neighbor's yard, or I wonder what it would be like if I ate that kind of dog food instead, or I wonder what it would be like if I had a flat screen TV in my kennel. I mean, the animals don't have that same belief system. They don't have that same belief system. And we say, what separates us from the animals is our opposable thumb. No, come on. That's crazy talk. I think most of us wouldn't trade our being able to believe something, believe what does the future hold. That's why people get married, isn't it? Because I believe that you're going to love me and be with me. I believe this, or that's why we go buy a house, because I believe this is the place that I want to live. This is why we get a job. This is why we do everything that we do in life comes back to our beliefs. And God, I believe, gave us this ability. He gave us the ability to have faith. He gave us the ability to believe, to be sure of the things that we hope for. He gave us the ability to know something is real even if we can't see it. I mean, you think of an animal. And dogs, they have no concept of the universe. They have no concept of things that they can't actually see. But we have the ability to believe things that we can't even see. Every great accomplishment in life and in the world, every great accomplishment began with someone who had faith that it could happen. Every accomplishment began with someone who said, I think that's possible. I think this is something that we could do. And somebody somewhere gets an idea. And as they get this idea, they begin to formulate words about that idea. And as they formulate words about that idea, they begin to speak those words. And other people hear those words. And other people begin to believe those words. And then everyone begins to believe those words and they begin to act on those words. And that's how the world changes. That's how movements are started. It all starts with faith. It all starts with a belief that something can happen. Someone say, I just don't have a lot of faith. I don't have a lot of faith. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 17. 17 verse 20 says, you don't have enough faith, Jesus told them. I tell you the truth. If you had faith, even as small as a mustard seed. Have you ever seen a mustard seed before? They're tiny, right? little mustard seed, faith just the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. Now, for a moment, I want to look at this verse from maybe a different perspective. Because often when we look at this verse, we look at it thinking like of a literal mountain, like Jesus saying, like, oh, if I have faith, that mountain, okay, mountain, I believe you're going to move, and it's going to somehow rip out of the ground, levitate, fly through the air, and fling itself into the ocean. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen, but I've never seen it happen. But so let's just imagine for a moment some other mountains that maybe he could have been talking about here. What are some other mountains? For example, the measles. You know, back, I think it was like 75 years ago, over 1 million people in America would die of the measles. And now, like hardly anybody dies of it. We've pretty much eradicated an entire disease. How did that start? That wasn't by accident. That started in somebody's mind that says, I believe that we can wipe out this mountain. We can wipe out this disease that's affecting so many people. It's killing millions of people. I believe that we can do something about it. And they did it. What would have happened if they had no faith? That mountain would have never been moved. What about leprosy? We read in Scripture a lot about leprosy. And leprosy, how horrible it was and how it would just destroy people's lives. And even in America right now, I think there's like 63 cases of leprosy that have like come up in the last year. I mean, it's barely even anything. We figured out how to treat it, how to deal with it. It's not even a big issue anymore. Other things. How about a literal mountain? Mount Everest. Man, people looked at Mount Everest for years that that's impossible. No one can make the top of Mount Everest. But eventually, someone did. But how did they make it to the top of Everest? They said, well, they climbed, they did a lot of work. But what came before that? It came a belief. It came a faith that says, I can conquer this mountain. I can climb it. I don't see it. I've never done it. Nobody's ever done it. But I'm going to get there. How about putting a man on the moon? Now, some of you don't believe it even happened, I'm sure. But for the rest of us, we say, I believe it even though I didn't see it. That's something we have to take on faith. I believe that there was man put on the moon. But how did that even come to being before that? Somebody had to say, you know what? I think we can do this. I got this absurd idea. We're gonna put a couple people in a bomb and we're gonna launch it up into the sky and eventually they'll go to the moon. I mean, we were like, yeah, right, man. Imagine having that conversation, like, say, 120 years ago with somebody. We're going to put on a man on the moon. They're like, yeah, right. You can't even get off the ground. How are you going to put a man on the moon? We believe that it's possible. And if you believe that it's possible, these mountains can move. Sometimes we think that the mountains moving is just some quick, fast, supernatural thing. But it's not necessarily that way. See, mountains are only moved by people who believe it's possible. Mountains are only moved by people who believe that there's a chance. I believe that it's possible that we could do this. And we see this from time to time in medicine and in technology. I mean, man, there's mountains that have come against our country, mountains of slavery, mountains of abuse, and mountains of governments that were coming against us. All kinds of mountains that we've faced and we've overcome because of faith. Because faith saying, I believe that we can do this. Faith is behind every good thing we've ever achieved. But here's the thing that's interesting. Faith is also behind every bad thing we've achieved, too. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. We say, I have faith I can, rob that bank. I have faith I can cheat on my taxes and get away with it, right? April 15th is coming up. So, I got faith. I believe I can get away with that. It's behind everything that we've done, whether good or bad. And it drives the whole world's beliefs. In fact, this faith, this belief is how our country even began to begin with. This is how it even started. A group of people came over and they believed, hey, we can have a new country. We can worship God. We can have the freedom of belief. We can do all this stuff. We had several battles. We waged war. People lost their lives. And eventually, we became a nation. And then, not too much longer after that, what happened? We got divided by more ideas. People were saying, oh, we think that it's okay if we have slaves. And other people said, no, we don't think that we should. And so there was this division. This division starts with ideas also. Every conflict is this difference of belief. And then the Civil War broke out and over 800,000 people died fighting each other. All because of ideas, all because of beliefs. So conflict is this difference of belief. Hitler, he drugged the world to a world war by talking. Then he would get up and he would say these speeches, and he wrote a book, and he would say these things that would inspire people of what the future of Germany could be like and what the future should be like. And he spoke these words, and people began to believe those words. And as they believed it, they began to act out on these things. What do we believe about Hitler? Well, we certainly don't believe that he was the greatest guy in the world. But it all started with faith, with belief. And all he did was talk. See, there's power behind having an idea. And there's power behind that idea can actually happen. When we believe something is possible, you can write this in your notes, when we believe something is possible, we look for a way until we find one. We look for a way until we... I think about stuff like that all the time. Like you see people that do certain hobbies. Like, say, juggling. I juggle. But the only reason why I juggle is because I saw someone else doing it first, right? But I'm like, think about the very first person that said, I'm going to juggle. And I'm going to take these things, and I'm going to start throwing. I mean, it must have just seemed to me, I would be like, oh, I want to try. Oh, no, that was a bad idea. But the only reason why I pushed through it, because I believed that it was possible, because I saw somebody. Or like playing an instrument. Like I play the guitar. And I'm like, wow, this is great. I learned how to play. But if somebody gave me this instrument, and I never seen it played before, never heard it played before, I think it would probably take me all of about 5 minutes to say, you know what? There's no hope in this thing. There's no way a person can learn how to do it. But somebody somewhere says, I believe that it's possible. We believe something's possible. We look for a way until we find a way. And in fact, I've heard of a lot of businesses that kind of like as an initiation, you come to work for the business and they put you on an impossible task. And they say, oh, you go and do this impossible task. They don't tell you it's impossible. They say, oh, go do this thing. And you're like, okay. And you spend like a week working on this project. Everybody's like snickering behind your back, like, they don't know it's impossible. This is going to be fun. We're never like. And then they come and they have a solution. They're like, oh yeah, I figured it out. Here you go. And everybody's like, what? But that's impossible. Well, I didn't know it was impossible. I believed it was possible, so therefore I did it. How many things, Thomas Edison, how many filaments did he try in the light bulb before he finally found the one that worked? He believed that something was possible. It's the power of belief. Did you know in sales, optimists always outsell their less optimistic peers? If someone's optimistic about something, man, they can sell you on something. And you're like, man, you just got to try this. I don't know if you've ever been sold on something before, You're up late at night, you got your stomach's hurt, and you flip on the TV, and like some guy is, selling, something that scrapes skin off your feet or something. And you're like, I got to have that thing. My feet have never been scraped, and I got to scrape my feet. And like, half an hour later, we're like shelling out, $20 for like 5 of these things. And we've been fine our entire life, but now, we have the pet egg or whatever it is. But when optimism, man, that sells people on stuff. See, a lot of people, we say seeing is believing. See, what faith and belief is about is that believing is seeing. Look what it says in 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we live by what? Faith, not by sight. We live by faith. We live by what we believe, not by what we see. We believe and then we see. Most people out there, they see and then they'll believe. Oh, I'll believe it when I see it. You ever heard that before? But the real people that change the world are the people that see it before anybody else. One person that was better than that than probably anybody was Walt Disney. Man, wasn't he good at that? You know, it's like you believe something long enough, and eventually it comes true. Listen to this quote from Disney. He said, when you believe in a thing, believe in it all the way, implicitly and unquestionably. If you're going to believe in it, just go all for it. And the story goes that when Magic Kingdom with Epcot and all that opened up in Florida, someone asked Walt Disney's brother Roy, because Walt had already passed away before this happened. And he said to Roy, a reporter said, you know, it's too bad that Walt didn't actually get to see this. And Roy turned around to him and said, the only reason why you're able to see it now is because he already saw it years ago. And man, it's like, Walt, he had that vision. He had that vision, and I heard it, and I was inspired, and I went back and I found an old film footage of Walt Disney like pitching the whole thing, and he's talking about, I mean, like this guy's passionate, he's enthusiastic, he's like, we're going to have this, and we're going to have that, and it's going to change the world. And I think it did change the world in a different way than maybe even he realized. But he saw it before he believed it before he saw it. I don't know, maybe you're successful. You went to a good college. You got a good degree. You got a good job. You make a lot of money. You got a nice house. You got a nice car. And then have you ever met that person that's just like in a whole other stratosphere, like financially than you? And you're like, man, like this person is like we're talking maybe hundreds of thousands, and they're talking like tens of millions. And I've known some people like this. And you're like, man, and here's the thing. You're like, and they didn't even go to college. I'm smarter than them. I'm smarter than this guy. In fact, if it was my idea, well, I probably would have talked myself out of it before we even started because I'm too smart to try what they did. But they actually went out and did it. And yeah, you got a nice car, but they got a nice jet, and they're flying all over because they were just, maybe they weren't the brightest person. Maybe they weren't the sharpest tool in the shed. Maybe you are smarter. But they had a belief. A person plays differently, or a person who knows they're going to win plays differently from someone who thinks they're going to lose. Have you noticed that? You know, watch UConn ladies, you know. It's like who's going to come in second? You know, I mean, it's like, man, if you know you're going to win, man, you're going to go out. You got confidence. You're going to go and you're going to play like you mean it. But have you ever watched a game like that? Like, say, a football game? Even this past Super Bowl, we watched that. And when it gets to the point where the losing team thinks that they're going to lose, you can almost see the shift. Like, they're not even playing anymore. They don't even believe they have a chance. But you know what makes the great stories, what makes the great movies, though, is when they're behind, but they still believe they can win. You see, I mean, we love stories like that. They're like 50 points behind. Like, we got 2 minutes, man. We can do this, you know? And somehow they do it. Man, a person plays so differently if they believe they're going to win. Belief trumps IQ almost every single time. Do we believe something? There's so many things we can believe in. You know, I brought this... I don't know if you guys know what this is. This is a water filter. And it screws on here. I can go out into the wild, get a stream that's full of all kind of bacteria and gross stuff, and I can fill this bag here up, and I can screw this on here, and I can filter the water. You know what, though? I can't see what's happening on the inside of here. This thing says, I don't know, it's hard to believe. I know it's hard to believe. It says it can filter 1 million gallons. 1 million. That's a lot of gallons. My old water filter could do 200 gallons. I don't know how they went from 200 to 1 million, but they did. And you know what? I just take it on faith. I'm just like, okay, I believe you. But if you don't filter, if your water's not clean, you can get sick, you could die, you could have all kinds of problems. Okay, well, I'll trust this $20 product with my life, And I believe it, even though I don't see what's happening. See, this is where belief comes in, and this is where belief is in our normal life. And so we're not even talking about, religious belief here yet. This is just belief in general, how it empowers us to try something, how it empowers us to try it again, to keep on trying, to keep getting back up, to anticipate great things for the future, to have hope, to overcome things, to imagine things, to create things. That's what faith is. 1954, Roger Bannister. You know who he is? Anyone know who Roger Bannister was? First man to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They said it was impossible. Said no person can run a mile under 4 minutes. It'll kill him. No one can do it. Roger Bannister ran the mile in under 4 minutes. Man, he kept trying. He said, I believe I can do it. I believe I can do it. I believe I can do it. And everybody says, you can't do it. And something inside of him says, I believe I can do it. And he pushed himself harder and harder. Even if it kills me, I'm going to do it. And he did it. And guess what happened that next year? Like 4 more people ran the mile in less than 4 minutes. Right now, you can't even qualify for the Olympics if you can't run the mile in 4 minutes. High school kids are running the mile in under 4 minutes. But where did it start? It started in the mind of a crazy person who said, I don't know what everybody's saying about it killing me. I believe I can do it. Olympians, every Olympian, we're having an Olympics this year. Every Olympian is going into it, except those that are going to be swimming, because they're going up against Michael Phelps. Man, I feel bad for those guys. But you know what? Even them, they're going into thinking, I believe I can take him down. He's getting old, I'll swim faster this year. I'll run faster. I'll jump higher. Politicians, man, we're watching all this political stuff, man. I got nothing to say about it. That's all I'll say. But here's the deal. Man. They believe it, don't they? Or at least they say they believe it. I'm not sure. They at least believe that they can get there. They're all like, when I become president. Like, you can't all become president now. And I'm like, can we just do like a do-over and like start like a fresh, clean slate all over again? But anyhow, enough politics. The next observation is this. Write this down. We always look for proof to support what we believe to be true. We always look for proof. We're always looking for something to support what we believe. And this is especially true right now with Republicans, right? And Democrats too, right? We were like, that person said that. That reinforces what I believe. I'm looking, that person, I saw this person say something the opposite of what I believe. I'm going to discredit that. Although they don't even know what they're talking about. I'm not even going to watch that channel anymore. Those guys don't know anything. Why? Because we're always looking for proof to support what we believe. There's an opposite opinion. I can't trust you if you have an opposite opinion. So we're always looking to support these beliefs. We support the beliefs and we filter out the contrary. We support our beliefs and we filter out the contrary. We support our beliefs, we filter out the contrary. And this happens in every walk of life. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just what we do. Let's just be honest about it. This is what we do. If I believe something and I hear, it's just like if I believe that, such and such car is the greatest car in the world, and you come up and say, I got this car, it's the greatest car. I'm like, yeah, that supports what I believe. Somebody says, I had one of those cars and it was horrible. I'm like, yours just wasn't a good one, or something. It's like, I'm going to filter out what I don't believe. Here's the key to a happy family. Write it down. Couples that believe the best see the best. Right? If you believe the best in your spouse and in your kids and your parents, your teachers, your friends, you're going to see the best. You're going to see what you believe. Guess what you're going to find if you're looking for some bad stuff? If you're looking for the worst in somebody, you're going to find it, right? We're going to find it. If we're looking for bad, we're going to find it. So, let's change gears a little bit. Religious belief. I don't even like the word religious, but we're just going to use it for the sake of this. Religious belief is simply belief now applied to matters of God and of maybe the Bible or whatever religion someone is brought up in. It's like this nun apparently was driving down the road, and she ran out of gas. You ever run out of gas before? Man, that's just horrible feeling. She ran out of gas, and and she walked to a service station, and she's like, I need to get some gas. And the guy's like, I don't have any containers right now. Maybe we can go to the store or something like that. So she's like, oh, I don't know. And then she had an idea. She had a container in her car because she was getting ready to visit somebody that was like an invalid. And so she goes back to her car, and she had a bedpan, right? So she gets a bedpan, and she takes it to the gas station, fills it up with gas, carefully brings it back, and she's pouring it into the car. Somebody drives by like, man, now that is faith, right? You know. Some of you don't get that, but you'll get it later. It's a bedpan. Religious faith is just faith and in our religion and what we believe about God. Believing that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and that Jesus died on the cross and that God rose him from the grave again. Now, if I apply my faith and belief to that. So, let me tell you why I'm a follower of Christ. Why I follow Jesus. Why I'm a Christian. Here's the foundation. And this is important for us to really grasp and understand. When we start saying, let's start over with our faith. Let's take a fresh new perspective. And you can write this down. When Jesus died, those closest to him believed he was dead. When Jesus died, all of his followers believed he's dead. He ain't coming back again. He's dead. Peter, he's dead. John, he's dead. James, everyone, Bartholomew, he's dead. They believed after all the miracles that Jesus did, after all the promises, after all the times he fed people and healed people and walked on water, and after all that, it's over now. It's over. He was a powerful speaker, and it got him killed. Man, Peter warned him not to go. Peter said, don't go to Jerusalem. They're going to kill you. And he went to Jerusalem anyhow. We knew this was going to happen. Man, we saw this coming. He was just making too many enemies with the wrong people. Man, if he's going to be the Messiah, he needs to work with the Pharisees, not against the Pharisees. And so as a result, that brings us to the next point, that they believed he wasn't the Messiah. They'd been with him for 3 years, and at this point, we don't read about the great faith that these disciples had after Jesus died. You know what we read about? They're hiding. They hoped that he was a Messiah back when he was living. He'd say these things nobody understood. He would talk about himself a real lot. We hoped he was the Messiah, but obviously he wasn't because he's dead. Messiahs don't die. This is different from other movements that have happened in the world. Gandhi lives his life, he dies. His group of followers, they gather together, now inspired more than ever to go and share the teachings of Gandhi with the world. Muhammad dies, his followers gather together like he's dead, but we're going to carry his legacy to the world. Martin Luther King Jr., he dies, and his followers say, we're going to gather his message and bring it to the world. Jesus died, his disciples are like, we're hiding. We're out of here. It says they all abandoned him. There wasn't anything to teach about. Because Jesus was central to his own message. Yeah, he said some nice parables and some nice stories. But he talked about himself a lot. How do you process when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to God except through me. And then that person dies. Welp, I guess we're done here. You know? I mean, when he's like, you know what? Me and the Father are one. And then he's dead? Okay, then. Does that mean God's dead too? Like, what's going on here? So Jesus' closest followers didn't believe in the end. They went into hiding. They were outlaws. They were terrified. They weren't spreading his teaching. He didn't die, and they're not out in the street saying, let me tell you a parable of the prodigal son. Let me tell you about, the woman who lost one of her coins and she went to look for it. They're not out there saying, we need to preserve his teachings, everyone. They're in hiding. Why? Because they believed that he was dead, and they believed that. But here's what's interesting. A few days later, these cowards that were in hiding, these cowards, these people that ran, the people that ran when Jesus was arrested, the very same guy that denied Jesus in front of a little girl. A little girl's like, do you know him? And he starts swearing, like, no, man, I don't know her. I don't know him, blankety blank this guy, and I don't want to be around him. Here, these cowards that were running and hiding for their life, just a few days later, they go out into the street and they start preaching. But you know what they're preaching? They're not preaching the parables. They're not saying, hey, there's a story about a prodigal son. Hey, there's a story about this guy that bought a vineyard. Hey, there's a story about this or a story about that. They're not preaching that. They have a message and it's got 4 points. Here's what it is. You killed him. You guys. Hey, yeah, Tom, you were there. You saw him get killed. George, I heard you say, give us Barabbas, crucify Jesus. Don't deny, I saw you there. You guys killed him. But God raised him. And we've seen him. Now say you're sorry. That was it. That was it. You killed him. God raised him. We seen him. Now you say you're sorry. That was the whole message that they were preaching. They weren't talking about his parables. They weren't talking about his miracles. They were saying, guess what, guys? We all saw him die, and he's not dead anymore. 20 years later, we talked about this when we started the series about Paul and he being in Athens. And he's arguing with people, or he's discussing with people that have never even heard about Jesus at all. And he's saying God has done something for all people. And he says it was in this man, Jesus. And he isn't talking about the Sermon on the Mount, and he's not talking about the Good Samaritan. He's not talking about any of these things. He's talking about we've seen him. And I actually interviewed people that saw him. This is eyewitness accounts here. In Acts 17:31, he says, For he has set a day for judging the world with justice by the man he has appointed. This is Jesus. And he proved to everyone who this is by raising him from the dead. Man, he proved it by raising him from the dead. See, if Jesus stayed in the tomb, there would be no Christianity. There would be no movement of faith with faith in Jesus. We would have forgot who he was because everything he had to say was about himself, and we're not going to keep saying that if he was actually dead. So why did the church survive all of these years? Why did it survive persecution? Why am I a Christian? Why should you be a Christian? Because when Jesus died, no one believed in him anymore. By their own testimony. I mean, think about this. These guys actually wrote the story of Jesus, and they said, yeah, guys, we ran. We were cowards. I mean, they weren't trying to write themselves as the hero here. Their own testimony, they lost faith, but when they saw the risen Savior, it all changed around. See, the early church, write this down, the early church wasn't based on ancient writings. It was based on the belief that Jesus rose from the dead. It wasn't based on what the Bible says. It was based on what eyewitnesses saw and believed to be true. The ones that ran away were saying, you can kill me if you want, but I know what I saw with my own 2 eyes. And most of them did die as a result. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all wrote about it. James, the brother of Jesus, wrote about it. I'm like, if that doesn't convince you that he's the Messiah, I don't know what will. Because, man, if your brother comes up to you and says, hey, man, I'm the Messiah, we're all, yeah, sure you are, It's like, man, you can convince your brother that you're the Son of God? And this is after the fact. James saying, no, I am a servant, I am a slave of Jesus Christ. It was all based on eyewitnesses. So what all this comes down to is the fundamental question of who is Jesus. The single event that changed his friends' answer, his followers' answer. Man, they thought they knew who he was, but when he died, all of that disappeared. But that single event of his resurrection, which we'll be celebrating in a couple weeks, changed their answer. And as a result, the resurrection substantiated all of Jesus' other claims. He says, hey, you can go boldly to the throne of grace. You can go boldly to God. Well, after he dies, how do we know if that's true anymore? But he comes back to life again, and that substantiates, that proves that everything he says is true. We're going to close with this verse, Hebrews 11:6. It says, and it is impossible to please God without faith. You can't please him by the good things you do. You can't please him by coming to church. You can't please him by even reading the Bible and praying. You're not going to please him by doing anything other than faith. It says it is impossible to please God without faith. And anyone who wants to come to him must do what? Must believe. We talked about this several weeks ago, how Abraham was made right with God because of the fact that he chose to believe. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. Maybe we need a faith lift. Not a facelift, a faith lift. We need our faith lifted. So you know what? I got faith in all kinds of stuff. But it's time for me to redirect my faith into Jesus Christ. See, and this isn't a faith where we talk about just sitting around waiting for God to do something. Oh, I have faith that God's going to get me a new job. But out there actually looking, it's like, come on, man. If you believe it, go out there and move some mountains. Go out there and make a difference for the kingdom of God. Go out there and go in faith. And man, this is not just about our spiritual life, although that's the most important, but faith, it guides every aspect of our life. But man, when we apply faith to our relationship with God, and things can change. Lives can be transformed. Sick people get healed. Mountains are moved. Maybe not in the magical, mystical way that we think, but they're moved nonetheless. If you believe that God exists, then let's come to him with faith and trust and belief. Let's pray together. Father, we come to you. And we thank you for sending Jesus. And we put our faith in him now. We believe that he existed. And we believe that you rose him from the grave again. And in that single event, you've given us the opportunity to be made right with you. So we give ourselves to you. I don't know where you're at right now in your walk with God. I don't know if you've ever directed your faith towards him or not. And maybe some of you have believed in the past, but maybe it's become too common that there's not really faith anymore. And I would encourage you, just say to God, I believe in you. I put my faith and trust in you. Trust you. In Jesus' name. Amen. So let's move forward with faith that all things are possible for those that believe. That if we have faith like a tiny mustard seed, we can say to this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea. And it will be done. Let's stand together.